bottlenecks as we are in the midst of the holiday season. It would be an understatement to say that the past year and a half has been rough for many Americans. In addition to the public health crisis, our supply chain and transportation networks have experienced immense strains throughout this pandemic. Grocery stores are struggling to keep shelves stocked again with the current freight bottlenecks across the country. While we hoped these disruptions would be a temporary problem, it is clear that we will have to deal with this crisis for the foreseeable future. Industry experts believe the supply chain disruptions could persist into late 2022 or even into 2023. Today's hearing will highlight the impacts the port backlog is having on American businesses, including Preferred Popcorn of Chapman, Nebraska. I am pleased to introduce my friend, Norm Krug, who founded Preferred Popcorn in 1997. 50% of Preferred Popcorn's business is overseas, exporting to 70 countries around the world. While he was able to export 1,500 containers of popcorn last year, it should have been much more. Mr. Krug informed my office that over 900 of his containers were unable to be picked up for delivery. In other words, over 1/3 of Norm's export business was not shipped due to disruptions, and that is unacceptable. Norm will be able to provide this committee with more insight on how the supply chain disruptions are affecting the agriculture export industry, and I look forward to hearing his testimony. Unfortunately, Norm is not the only Nebraska business leader who has reached out to my office about the supply chain disruptions. I've heard from individuals who have had to send employees home because their supply was stuck in a warehouse on the West Coast and they didn't have work for them. Another business informed me that they were having to start producing more products outside the United States facilities because the cost of exporting their product is becoming too expensive. Additionally, many Americans are concerned about being able to purchase goods ahead of this holiday season. Grocery stores across the country are struggling to maintain consistent inventory, and retail sector analysts are already warning that Christmas orders will likely be delayed. I was joined by many of my Senate colleagues, including Chairman Peters, in supporting the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was recently signed into law. While this legislation will provide historic investments into our nation's freight system, this will not be a short-term fix. I hope this hearing will provide Congress with a better understanding of how these disruptions impact American businesses. Additionally, I hope we can have a productive conversation with the witnesses to discuss how shippers and carriers can work to alleviate bottlenecks across this supply chain. Finally, I believe this committee should have additional hearings on this topic to understand how transportation operators and the administration are addressing the supply chain challenges that we are discussing today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Ranking Member Fischer. We'll now introduce our witnesses.